Well, and Mike, of course, all of this goes in right into the topic of discussion. That's kind of the main topic of discussion today, and that is the amount of risk that you are taking inside your financial life, right? And it's
Mhm.
particularly inside your investments. And, as people get older, the things that got them to this point in their life, the thing that helped them get them to retirement, for example, is not always the best thing to still do to get through retirement, right? Your situation completely changes. And so you got to make some changes in your financial life as well.
You do, and it's funny, I've made this analogy before, but it's kinda like climbing Mount Everest, right? People prepare, and they prepare, and they prepare, both physically, mentally, spiritually, for months, if not years, to climb Mount Everest, but very little thought is given to, the descent, getting down from the apex, at the top of the mountain. So most of the deaths occur not on the way up, but on the way down. And so when we're talking about retirement planning, most of the failures that I see are not necessarily during the accumulation phase when people know that they need to save for retirement and they save, as much as they can possibly afford, in your 20s and 30s. Let's be honest, folks, life kind of gets in the way there, and not as much as you should be contributing is actually contributed unless you're the anomaly, right? And then people tend to start getting a little bit more serious in their 40s and 50s and 60s if they're working that long. But the preservation and the distribution phase, as far as the drawdown of your money, if you don't have an income plan in place, that is where you are very possibly setting yourself up to fail. And so, there are some important factors to consider, and scaling down risk is one of them. And that's the first one that I want to talk about. So, as you near retirement, particularly if you're within 10 years of retirement, it's crucial to transition your investment strategy from a growth focused strategy to more of a preservation focused strategy. I'm not saying that you don't still have some money in equities, because you absolutely would. But this strategic shift involves reducing some of the exposure to high risk investments, which are much more volatile and can lead to significant financial losses that close to retirement. And in other words, your goal basically should be to minimize the risk of large scale financial setbacks that could jeopardize the entirety of your retirement and all those plans. So at this point in time, one needs to prioritize protection before growth.
Yeah, and you want to do that, as soon as you can, as you're approaching retirement age, and that's different kind of for everybody, right? It used to be maybe everybody would think about, oh, well, I'm going to work until I'm 65, and then I'm going to retire and all that. But a lot of people I have known working well into their 70s, and as a matter of fact, one of my teachers in school was well into her 70s before she retired as well, and she was luckily in a situation where, if I remember correctly, because this is going back decades now, but if I remember correctly, she was not in a situation where she had to keep working. She just loved teaching.
Yeah.
It was what she did, and all of that. She had a passion for it. And if that is you, wonderful. But we want to, of course, keep you from being in a situation where you have to work. So you want to prioritize that preservation, and talk a little bit more about the goal of preservation here of those assets, Mike, especially in that time right before and just in the first few years of your retirement.
No, absolutely. The primary goal during this pre retirement phase is to protect what you have accumulated as far as all of your savings across all of your different accounts, and be able to ensure that you have a stable income stream in retirement that will replace your salary once you actually do cross that threshold and retire. We need to make sure that your income needs are going to be met after you retire. It's not like your lifestyle is just going to radically change. Well, let me correct myself. It will radically change if you don't prepare to have it not radically change. Because the sad truth of the matter is most people, while they're working, make pretty good salaries, you know, enough to live comfortably on. But when they retire, they're not getting paid anymore, and they're having to depend on, you know, Social Security plus you know, anything that they have saved. So protecting your hard-earned money from significant market downturns is essential to maintaining your financial security as you transition out of the workforce.
Yeah, and then that goes right into, talking about the sequence of returns risk, which sounds like
Yes.
something that is very sort of wonky to talk about, I'm sure, to our listeners here, Mike. But what do we mean when we use a term like sequence of returns risk? It really is important to understand that risk that everybody is going to face, especially if you haven't done any planning ahead of time to be able to withstand any market movements that might take away, like you were just talking about in 2008, might,
Yes.
literally pull the rug out from under you.
It absolutely did. The good thing that I had on my you know, side was time. I was still young enough to be able to, you know, make an impact and make some changes that would affect my financial security moving forward. And I got really serious and literally just did not stop. I would not stop. You know, can't stop, won't stop. But sequence of returns. Okay, let's just say you have 5 years worth of market returns, and the first 3 years are good years, and then the last 2 years are bad years. That is a much better scenario than if we just take that and flip it. And so the first 2 years in retirement would be negative, followed by 3 positive years. Losses suffered within 10 years of retirement and within the first 10 years after retirement, they have significant financial implications that could affect your lifestyle, right? So just think about, you mentioned 2008. Think about somebody who retired maybe in 2007 and then saw 2008, 2009, 2010 of just catastrophic loss after loss after loss before it then turned around and made money for the next 10 years. That person's money would not last as long as somebody who retired just 3 years later in 2010 and saw no losses for 10 years, right? So that's what we mean when we talk about sequence of returns risk. Now, my crystal ball has been broken for 53 years. I don't know about yours, Matt, but it is very, very difficult to be able to predict the future. And everybody has heard the phrase that past performance is not reflective of future results, right? So we don't know what's going to happen. We can take as much information and process that data and make our best guess. But at the end of the day, most money managers don't beat the overall performance of the market. So, you know, the trick is not to be too emotional and just make sure that you're putting things in place that prepare you for life after the workforce.